welcome back. Thank you, everybody, for joining us at Let's Dig Into That. This is a calling to connect. Our mission is to remain honest and curious to promote intentional connection through meaningful conversation.
That's right.
And I am digging in today with my luscious linebacker, whose mood today is crudité.
That's right. Give me some veggies.
You are looking fly with your new haircut.
I appreciate that. But before we go too far, the voice you're hearing, that's, of course, the Fury in a hurry. Some days, but all days, the queen of kindness. That is Jordan. What's up, baby?
Oh, what is
You get an intro, too.
Well, thank you. I was just trying to flirt and say, I do cut your hair occasionally.
Most
and
times.
So seeing a barber shop cue ball here across from me, it's fresh and nice. I like it.
The home clippers don't get this tight. I definitely asked for the same thing you do and got pretty short. And I think it's all based on professional clippers.
What we have is not a professional grade for the garage salon. That's right. We do it outside.
That's right.
Easier to sweep. So you went to our town's little precious barbershop. How many bless your hearts you get walking in there? Bless your heart, big boy.
It's a big reason in why you are the person that cuts my hair. There was 3 people in there. This is a walk-ins only, first come, first serve, cash only, no bathroom. And it's the only spot in town because we live in the middle of the woods.
My favorite.
3 people in there.
I'm so sorry, but shop vac cleanup. The first time JT comes home, I'm like, did you get like a hickey type cinch? And I wasn't at all sweating. I was like, there's a story that comes with your neck.
That's absolutely true. Yeah, the vacuum, the sort of cleanup is definitely a shop vac built into the wall, and it'll tell you where you're getting a little chubby. You know, sucks when you got to work in them jowls.
So industrial, into the wall, fat sucker.
It's a lovely experience.
But bless your heart.
All 3 people in the room gave me a bless your heart, and for one particular reason.
I know.
Every single time, this wonderful hairdresser, who is the sweetest lady, asks me about my kids.
That you don't have.
That I don't have. And so my answer is always the same. Oh, yeah, no kids. Not for us. And it's always, oh, bless your heart. Keep at it. Keep trying. It'll work out. And I always follow up with like, oh, no, we're not trying. That's not where we want to take our life. And it's just silent for the rest of the time.
Then the bless your heart is I'm praying for you.
Right.
Yes.
100% of the time.
So there is a fact that remains of we both actively tried to have kids with other people. Mm-hmm. And then haven't together. That can be confusing. Chose not to pursue procreation as a team.
100% correct. And there's a lot of factors, but I think both of us, and correct me if I'm wrong, consider ourselves to be child-free by choice. Would you agree with that?
I do agree with that. I think it's really unique when it's like we tried. So was it your choice changed?
Right.
Moment in time.
Yeah, I think that's one of the reasons that other people
So I am child-free by both circumstance and choice.
Is that how you don't really...
Oh, baby, I could get you a baby. You want a baby? I'll make one happen today. So I do think there's an element of choice to that.
I agree.
And full disclosure, I knew you informed me that you were like, by the way, vasectomy, medically recommended, imminent. And I was like, sounds like a great date. And we did make it a date.
We did, got some Chipotle.
But would you elaborate on why at 34, 30?
34,
we don't know how old you are. 30. When it happened, you were about 34. Okay.
Yes, and the doctor who did the slice told me that I was the youngest person he had ever performed a procedure on. And my circumstances definitely did change. And my ex-wife and I tried and actually were ready to have a baby. And that's not really my personal story to share, so I don't want to get too into that. But we were pregnant, and then we weren't, and it was pretty tragic and pretty sad. And then from that point forward, the background behind it is I was born with this crazy blood disorder called Henoch-Schönlein purpura, or petechia, HSP, and it's this crazy blood disorder where my body sort of turns on itself and attacks my liver and kidneys. And to combat this, I had to completely tear down my immune system and build it back up several times in my life. And that requires, to build your immune system back up, steroid treatments that are not kind to your reproductive system. And so what happened to me is I saw the same doctor forever because of this blood disorder, so we had a great rapport. And when I went in there thinking about starting a family to see how everything was looking, the results
So freshly married and just checking in.
Freshly married, I mean, we went the kids route less than a year into our marriage, largely because my ex-wife's older sister was having a baby, and we wanted to,
raise
have
the
cousins
babes together.
and so we went down that path, and both saw fertility specialists, and the news was now or never, basically. The doctor looked at me and said, your swimmers are not swimming. Actually, he used a hilarious analogy. Again, that's why I was
so glad that this is
trying to make sure
family lore
to
at this
talk
point.
about the rapport that we had. But he goes, your swimmers, and kept using that word, are not really swimming. They're more like the fat kids with their shirts on by the water slide.
So we're at the pool. We're at the pool by default. But you are, I don't think, did he say fat kids? It's a little.
He did. But
any grown man that sees a pediatrician, I am loving this dynamic so much. But that's heartbreaking to hear. I hope that.
It was a challenging time for sure. And I will say, and I want to ask you a couple questions about this too, because I know you had similar situations, but
my sperm, I get to go all day.
But that news was particularly devastating, like for just to hear like, hey, you can't do this. You're a mule. You're not reproducing. It impacted me in a way I didn't expect, because there was elements and times in my life where I really did want to be a dad. But once I went through that experience, I had a perspective switch. And so it wasn't something I was dead set on.
I have to be a dad to be myself.
But even though I was in that state, hearing that I was unable was soul crushing. It tore me down. And I know you have a similar story.
You were in the room with your doctor, with your wife?
No, not with my wife. It was past divorce. Child didn't work out, and
you were
divorce, and so then I'm experiencing some pain down there, and I'm like, what is this about? So I go to the doctor.
Insult to injury,
right? I'm like, this is, and he's asking me some pretty personal questions, and it was painful to climax.
That could be discouraging.
And so that was really
part of your celibacy post-divorce choice. If you haven't caught episode 1, Sex After Divorce,
completely thought this is punishment for your sin.
Yes. Your penance in the penis. Sorry, there are too many P's.
But that's sort of my backstory. I'm curious about yours, because I know with your ex-husband, you guys definitely put in some serious effort. I don't need to hear too much about the trying part, but
I don't think that's relevant. But
you got some news that wasn't exactly what you wanted to hear as well.
That is true. And I do want to, because I said insult to injury, that doesn't even describe. You're going to get 16 pretty serious hugs, even though I know all of this information. That is a lot, not only on the existential level to go through. And so
it was a lot, and it was tragic. And again, I don't feel it's just my personal story, so I don't want to talk too much about the experience that my ex-wife and I had, because she shares a big role in that too. And
but
I want to be very
your
respectful
penis
of that.
and the
That's
pain
true.
there that did make our conversation when you were like, so here's the thing. And I'm like, well, that sucks.
Yeah.
Like, of course, like no brainer. So you asked me about my
first off,
adventures in fertility.
Can you tell me what you call the surgery you had? Because I think it's hilarious.
My cuterus. So I did get a recommended operation. My uterus was, I guess, heart-shaped a little bit, which can, should an egg attach, lead to a higher risk of it not going full term, et cetera, et cetera. So should an errant sperm find its way, I have never been pregnant once, but find its way to my barren hovel, then I wanted to give it a very hospitable Hilton-like stay. And so because that seems like if we were lucky enough, miracle happened, boom. I want to do what I had that knowledge, which is a big part of the conversation. Is there too much? Because again, Yeah, you were given a lot of info.
I was, yes.
And very helpful and healing in some ways and hard to hear at the same time. But I do struggle with our Western medicine. Like, man, it sounds like every human on earth. There is unless you're 18 and drunk at your senior ditch day, those chicks are getting pregnant, no problem. Yeah, so my cuterus surgery was outpatient, no biggie, but I created a space that was.
And so they
They go in
balloon?
and took reshaped and then put a balloon. Oh, that was no bueno.
Oh,
on
man,
the
I can't imagine.
exit moment. So yeah, the balloon stayed, so it kind of like paper mache. So my cuterus just kind of shaped around, and then for a week or something, I don't remember.
Oh my gosh.
And then
that sounds pretty miserable too.
and then there's that, and then I did not get pregnant. So the news getting that you received one-on-one, mine was interesting. Being back in Boulder, we had chatted about it, and I drove by where I was, and I was going into a class, continuing education for real estate course, and I pulled into the parking lot of this beautiful hotel that is now scrapped to the ground. Beautiful in its day, so rightfully scrapped.
Used to host the Friday afternoon club. That place was.
But it seemed fitting as I drove by very recently, where I was like, yeah, dreams burning to the ground right there. Yeah, bring me on back. I had great rapport with the posse because I don't do fantastically when they draw blood. I get through it, but I talk a lot and I sing, and it's just not great. So I was there frequently, and so we had good rapport. So they felt super comfortable just hitting me with okay, your cuterus is wonky, and you do have a chromosome that's going to make this difficult. And for us to do any fertility treatments, it would require samples from extended family. Wow. And I was instantaneously like, that's not my jam.
Right.
Adoption always on the table my whole life. And,
And so how did that make you feel, getting news that...
Well, then they just dropped my husband's. They're like, since I got you on the line, and told me his motility and numbers. And I was like, sure, I'll pass that along tonight over the jug of tequila.
So you got to break that news.
So, yes, I did get to break the news. And I, again, had... I don't know why I'm saying again, because you weren't there. I had the all right, very Jordan response of, this sucks. Sack up, we're going to deal with it. Like, this is part of a bigger plan. And I, a little bit of lying to myself to kind of buffer the edges of like, man, it's hard not to feel like just branded with like, ick. And I remember the excitement when we like decided like, is this the moment? We throw caution, we throw pills to the wind.
Right, pulling the goalie.
Yeah, but we went to adoption meetings after that. And so my fertility journey, it is interesting that my marriage ended and here you and I are.
Not even trying.
And absolutely fulfilled in our children-rich life.
So I want to dig deeper into that. What was that decision like? Like, what was the shift for you? Was there something in particularly, or like, what went from I'm willing to try this now to that's not something I need in my life? Is there something you can pinpoint that sort of made that decision for you, or was that a natural progression? Like, tell me more about that switch.
Great question, because is it a combination of little moments? Because I'm sorry for the pause, but I think that's such a
heavy question.
Yeah,
fair
it is.
Pause.
Like, when I don't feel that I ever needed a child to feel like to complete my essence. I think I'd be a pretty kick-ass mom. I think we would have such a wonderful time raising kiddos together.
You would raise a fucking rock star. Pardon my language. But.
Well, that's very nice. And I completely agree. But I do think we would have a really beautiful struggle. And I love watching my friends raise these kiddos. And I still, at 40 right now, haven't had the, oh shit, what have I done? And it's interesting too, the minute the first day after I let my mom know my marriage has come to an end. And I deliver that news with a, pretty similar tone to what I was like, by the way, the time has come, because it had fizzled. And so she was in the loop. And I think she waited almost 9 hours to be like, so how about my treat? My treat. Offer number 15, maybe. But now we're pushing with a little more diligence. I will freeze those eggs.
Let's go put them eggs on ice.
Let's keep our options open. Let's freeze those eggs. And my interest level in the moment from the first 15, zero. And I think it's an amazing process. I think that's, but it didn't feel authentic to my story.
Interesting.
And that's where I think that it wasn't really a decision I made. It was like I was willing to accept, like universe said, you thought it was this, it isn't. And I just needed to accept that. And the quicker I could get myself there, the better I felt. So I was like, all right. And in my family, I have so many, granted, I live 2 states away.
Right.
But
your mom is
technology.
One of 11?
My mom's one of 11. So I have endless, like our Christmas and our holidays when I can, and technology and FaceTime it's not the same, but I do my best to stay connected to God babies and nieces and nephews. And you coach the football team and we have kids around and it is wonderful. And then I have no regrets on coming home and turning my music up and not answering to.
Yeah, that's a good point. And something you said in there that, I was asking this question, thinking about how I would answer it, obviously. The universe, signs, a bigger picture. I believe in a higher power. I'm not exactly a religious person, but I'm a very spiritual person. When those things happen to me, when I got these terrible news, the terrible news that I've already discussed, into the issues with my downstairs, that was enough for me to be like, this is the wrong path.
And you mentioned that you rethought, like not only the pain, you had a little time to
Well,
where you were headed.
Well, it was the motivations behind it. Like, why did I want to be a dad?
We're supposed to. Was it a choice ever? I feel like maybe, are we the last generation? I didn't think I had a choice. It was how many boo-boos are you having?
Right. When you were a little girl, what was that conversation like? Like, as you were growing up, was it, are you going to have kids, or was it how many? Mm-hmm. How many is the conversation that I always had. And there was always jokes about, I'm going to marry a big Samoan woman and pump out some power forwards.
Love it.
Like there was no question that I was going to be a dad for such a long time. But those were such significant feelings and emotions that came with that news that I got, and that really hard struggle time in my life, that I really looked for signs in that moment. And it was enough for me to be like, this isn't the path I'm supposed to be on. And it felt so authentic, and it felt like,
that was my word.
True, but it felt like I was supposed to use that nurturing sort of fatherhood characteristic that is ingrained in me, and to help people in need. And that's really what sort of motivated me to get into social work. Was I knew I wanted to be around kids, and I wanted to impact the younger generation for the better. But it doesn't have to be the kids that I made.
Your own spawn.
They don't have to be my spawn. And that was like a revolutionary sign. And it felt like the universe, something bigger than myself, had coached me into this next phase of my life. And that made it a lot easier to stomach. It felt purposeful. It felt like, this is my path, not that path. And it added some clarity, believe it or not. Like that was, weight off of my shoulders.
In the devastation
to realize, like, man, there are so many other avenues, from, God babies, nieces, nephews, like, and then I work with adolescents who really do need a positive role model. And
it fills your cup.
It fills my cup, but it's also a reshift in how I feel purposeful.
So role model versus full-time father figure.
Well, exactly. I mean, I think one of the things that we said early on in our relationship was, I was like, well, what the hell are we going to do in our 50s and 60s if we don't have kids?
I have no shortage of answers or ideas. Yeah.
But I hadn't even thought about that.
Have you seen a passport sweat before?
Yeah. Those 2 decades in my mind for a long time were queued up to...
Well, look at my parents. They have this one, the golden child over here you're sitting with, that they have, I am 40 going on 11. and they are very, very near and involved. And it does make me sad that they aren't able to share in the. It's really hard, I know, for them when all their friends are flashing grandbaby pictures, but it doesn't bring me down enough to have any sort of a shoulda, woulda, coulda.
Right.
And I think I'm very happy too that I have such beautiful mothers and fathers that I'm watching my network of people that are raising this generation of God only knows what are they alphas? Generation Alpha?
I don't know.
They would be that like sub 10.
I hate
range.
that we fall into millennial. But we do.
We can't talk about it. I denied it, but that only adds years to my life.
Yeah.
But it's amazing to watch, and I think the fulfillment of being a good auntie, it does. I really pull a lot from watching them succeed and
right. And again,
mold these
only want to share stories that are relevant to us and our own lived experience. However, we just went through this with my older sister, and our hearts were with her along the whole journey, but she did 2 rounds of IVF,
2 retrievals, and had then, I think maybe then 2 implantations as well. But we had
and no-go, didn't take. And it was, I mean, if you've watched the Tig Notaro documentary, it was almost the same.
If you haven't, you should.
Gotta watch that. But it was very similar situation where she sort of had a last chance and it didn't go well for her. And I guess the reason I feel like this conversation is super important is there's a lot of people in that situation where you can be child free by choice, or it could not be in your cards. But there are so many avenues to be involved with a kid's life and make a difference. And I don't want to downplay how horrible that news can be for someone who wants to start a family. But on the other side of things, someone who decided not to try again with my second wife, I'm really living a very purposeful life and impacting more kids than I would have.
Isn't that interesting?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Trying to spin it positive a little bit. And,
who would have thought?
There's a lot of... we're pretty damn happy not having kids.
There is, yes, we've been clear enough. We love the kids, but there isn't a day that goes by that we are like, son of a bitch, we're so lucky.
Right. Well, I'm waiting for you to give the dogs away.
Oh, I love them, but he's not wrong. I want to give them land, more land, and they want to live in my pocket.
So I don't want to retread a little bit, but you mentioned no regrets. Like there isn't a little tiny piece of you that wishes maybe you had tried, or talk to me about that.
I think there is always wonder in the path not taken.
Look at me. Oh. we can make something beautiful. I'm just telling
you. With this haircut. I mean, but oh yeah, your eyes, those eyelashes, can't even imagine.
Do you not like my haircut?
I take it personally because I didn't do it, and so
I was gonna say you're making me feel like a post vasectomy penis with this little haircut.
Little haircut is how I describe it.
I don't have a lot of hair
close
right
to the
now.
dome. But what were we saying about babies? It is crazy though that there's no normal anymore. That it isn't like, oh, we planned on 4 and here are 4. That happens. Great, good for them. I love Christmas cards, and so I will, wallpaper the fridge. But everybody's journey seems so particularly nuanced with the advent of more info. I mean, how crazy is it that my fertility doctor, same as your sister's, years and years later in our small little community.
Shout out to Dr. G.
Shout out to Dr. Yeah. And I told you, my girlfriend was at a work conference in Ohio, and the after dinner drinks led to, she goes, you won't believe it. Number 2, they're working with Dr. G. And so, that man, gets around.
Didn't you run into him in public somewhere? And you weren't
embarrassing
able to
story. Him? So I'm at a charity event for children.
Boom.
And it had a really cute name with crayons involved. But anyway, really well done outside in the tent in the park, and there's cocktails and costumes and performances. And I have, at the time, drinking, my wine glass is full, and I am wandering, and I have my then husband on my arm, and I'm like waving at people that I think live down the street. And I'm like, ooh, who's that guy over there who has... It's going to come back to here. Has a unique haircut. Kind of, he has a very much Lloyd Yeah, it's coming back.
Lloyd Christmas?
Lloyd Christmas, yes.
Wow.
Like bull-ish. No insult to Dr. G.
Well,
he can pull
see you
it
later.
off. And so anyway, I'm like, who is that guy? And my husband's response was, he has been inside you. And so I was like, oh yeah. I had not used to him out of scrubs. Yeah. And so he
Gotcha.
was in a suit looking great. But that's embarrassing. But I do, my empathy, my heart goes out to, if you don't have the easiest path to what you want, it's, yeah, so that impact on a relationship too, not only on your own spirit. And so
it's a really difficult thing that a lot of people deal with, and it's not really a acceptable topic of conversation. So I'm really glad that we're sort of talking about it, because, who do you go to with that kind of stuff? It's more common than you'd think to go through a lot of these issues. And I don't know, I hope we inspire some conversations and let people know, one, if you don't want kids, you're not a weirdo. If you do want kids, or possibly you think it's your only option. Because like, I remember growing up thinking, of course I'm going to have kids. I never even thought the opposite. I wish I had. Like, I wish I could have played all my options there. You know what I mean?
Didn't consider it as an option.
But, on this side of things, shining some light on getting through that moment. And, there's some really great positive avenues on the other side of that challenge. And so glad we're having this conversation.
Absolutely. No, I really appreciate it. And thank you for sharing your penis peen with the world. And
hey,
mark
cuterus.
my words, it wouldn't shock me if, let's dig into that, raging on 10 years from now, and we're like, so we've adopted twins.
Yeah.
Who knows?
If we have little nuggets, I really do think it's a Moses moment where...
That was what I told my peeps growing up. If they said, yeah, how many kids? And I'm like,
If one
I
shows
think
up on my
if one's
doorstep.
on my doorstep, I'm going to love that baby. I'm going
Right.
to love it like it came right on out of me.
That's right.
And yes, I do think that, so adoption, biological, it was always A-okay. But yeah, Moses, I did, quick funny, but my mom was my principal in school in a small Missouri town, kindergarten through 12th grade, through seniors in high school, all in one
wow.
building. And she was the principal, and I had a lot of questions on our 30-minute drive to school. And my Aunt Deb was pregnant, and I informed my second grade class that I was going to be artificially systeminated. I think systeminated.
Because you had learned about the penis.
Because I was like, there has to be another way. I was completely naused at the time. And so and my teacher then walks down the hall to tell
oh, yeah, mom's
my
on
mom.
site.
And she's like, yeah, no one got it. Don't worry. Jordan confused them all. But she did let them know that there's a new baby coming, and she will be artificially systeminated.
Was this before or after?
I drew her topless.
Yeah, drawing the
That's
body
kindergarten.
picture, and you drew just big old jugs.
For those parents out there, that kindergarten draw man test, how about me drawing my principal mom topless with
old
hoop
tatas.
earrings, giant tatas, hoop earrings? She's going to love that I'm putting this out there. Oh my God. But, and that was not a thing in our house. Like, it wasn't like my mom was always just
Topless.
chilling. Yeah, just getting stuff done. She got her PhD when I was 8. So I'm like, did she study in the buff? Like, I have no idea. So, yes, I am grateful for the moms and dads out there. But
Absolutely.
yeah,
Take
thanks
care
for
of
being
your-
on this adventure.
Take care of your kids if you have them, and if you don't, take care of everybody. You know what I mean?
And in the spirit of, I think mammogram shout out's always good. Breast Cancer Awareness
Absolutely.
Month just wrapped. So please send in your questions if you've got them.
Yes.
We are getting a little bit of, inspiration. And so do not hesitate. Make us blush a little bit.
Let's dig into that.com. There's a query, sort of ask your own question down at the
Submit
bottom.
your inquiry.
That goes straight to us. If there's something you want us to talk about, throw it up. We'll definitely dig into it. Right?
I'm into it.
Awesome. Well,
Thank
great.
you again for being here.
Yeah, great conversation, baby.
Love you.
Love you. I'm JT.
And I'm Jordan. Until next time.